These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
Yeah, welcome in to Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. Our guy Kyle Tigey is off the grid this week. Recharging, refreshing, still
Is
keeping
he taking
an eye
one
on
of his mini trips to Hawaii?
Yeah, he goes to, well, I don't know. Maybe he's in Hawaii?
I feel like he's in Hawaii like once a year.
The current conditions
like
though,
once a
there
month.
Yeah, or once a
impede-
month, yeah.
might impede that with what's going on there.
I'm a bad friend. I feel like he told me where he was in a text, and now
That doesn't make you a
I
bad
don't
friend.
remember. But at least I
That's
remember his
classic,
name,
Judd.
Judd.
That
Judd
doesn't make you
remember people's names.
Dude, he's on vacation. He's a good guy, but I mean, you work with him. He's gone. He's out of sight, out of mind. I don't care where he is.
He's a good friend. Look, wow.
Go do your own thing, Kyle. That's
Judd,
awesome.
you're walking into a podcast here where the audience expects one thing, and you just took a crap on one of the hosts.
Hey,
right
no,
out
it's
of
a
the gate.
lifestyle show. I got to
First
live
the
my
twins,
lifestyle.
now Kyle
see-
Tigey. Now you're co-host.
What are you
You're lashing
doing?
out at your co-host.
No, I like Kyle. Kyle's a great guy. I'm just saying if somebody's gone, they're gone. And it's
and I'm
fine.
sure he's a great guy, but
People would rather hear Kyle right now than you. So
I
just
agree
know
with
that
that.
for the next
Oh,
25
I'm not
minutes.
I'm not criticizing him. You asked me to be on a podcast that's about lifestyle. I come into the show, I lead
true.
my lifestyle, and I get told I'm not leading the correct lifestyle? Is this
No.
What is this, 1958? Come on.
Well, you have to fit into our lifestyle. It's the Flagrant Howls lifestyle. So I feel like, I don't know, this talker comes up with like superstars that are in smaller markets. It's happened with Giannis, and now it's happening with Ant. And we're going to lay this out and get to it. But a shout out real quick to our friends over at Power Lodge and Miller Marine here. So it's kind of like the tail end of throttle therapy season on the water, and then we're looking ahead. It's like fall weather today, so we're kind of looking ahead to our maybe ATV and snowmobile time here. But whatever you're into, whether it's on the land or on the water, we've got all sorts of goodies for you at Power Lodge and Miller Marine. Power Lodge with multiple locations in Minnesota, Brainerd, Anemia, Ramsey, Miller Marine in St. Cloud. Check them out at powerlodge.com and millermarine.com. So there's been an interesting development over the last 3 weeks with USA traveling the world. The national media has discovered Anthony Edwards for the first time. It's great. Remember when Stephen A. last year, the playoffs started, and Anthony Edwards put up 35 points, and he's like, oh my God, I was watching basketball last night.
Yes.
Have you guys heard of this? What's his name? Anthony Edwards guy? I feel like the national media now, outside of Stephen A. Smith, is like, oh my God, this guy can play some basketball. Even Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra are for the first time, oh my God, this guy's kind of like Dwayne Wade. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. Mm-hmm. And so now that this is happening, the national media is also realizing it's imperative to make sure he doesn't stay in Minnesota.
Yep.
That's okay. Whoa, holy cow, we've discovered this gem. He can't be in Minnesota. He has to get somewhere else. The Athletic wrote this last week. Anthony Edwards has emerged as Team USA's go-to scoring option. Many around the league believe the 22-year-old is primed to ascend to superstar status this season. Yes, all right, let's go. Is it time for a bigger stage than Minnesota? And then Patrick Beverley came in, former Timberwolf, by the way, and he said, quote, on his podcast, Ant will get out of Minnesota. That's just what happens. That's no disrespect to Minnesota, although it is, actually. It's just that personality. He could change the world outside of Minnesota. And there's been others as well. So I guess my question to you guys, this is a good time to have the sports dad in here on Flagrant Howls for some perspective here, going back further than I can go back. How do you feel about this argument now that, oh my God, he might be a superstar, so the next step is let's get his ass out of Minnesota to a bigger market, a bigger stage somewhere?
It feels like, Phil, since we started to do this show together, or the show back in the 1500 days, that we have had this discussion with anyone who starts to emerge in a market that's not considered big, right? I forget, I swear to God, we had this conversation 7-8 years back. Okay, first of all, let's look at the facts. Ant just signed a contract extension. So for the immediate time, he's going nowhere. He's not going to get out of he doesn't have the option now to get out of his first contract and force a trade. Second of all, when it comes to the national perspective, I think that there is a definite agenda there because it's always a lightning rod talker. I mean, The Athletic is a subscription-based thing. They are looking to get hits, and it is an easy and a fun, reckless speculation talker to say, well, this guy is emerging as a star, and he plays for the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves are lousy, and so he is going to have to go. Patrick Beverley has an agenda because he wasn't brought back here.
I think,
And
I think he kind of likes Minnesota oddly though. Like
I think he likes
does
to
rave
poke,
about
though.
Cat and stuff.
But I think he likes to poke. I think he likes to poke. I think he has fun. And I don't think his liking Minnesota and liking his teammates here can be confused with the fact that Pat Bev's life, and I give him credit because he's actually turned this into a pretty smart thing for him, is to feel disrespected. So like he was disrespected here. So why would Ant want to stay here? Long story short, Kevin Garnett played here a long time. Kevin Garnett was here when things started to really trend south for basically a second time in franchise history. And Kevin Garnett did not want out. Now, if this was going to be the Glenn Taylor Ma and Pa shop, I'd be like, you know what? Have to wait and see. But if this franchise with Laurie and A-Rod is run in the correct way, and until that we see it's not, I'm going to assume it's going to join the 2023, 24, 25 era of how NBA teams are run, then I think Ant stays here. And I think there's a much higher chance that a Timberwolves-led team by Anthony Edwards has actual postseason success and has success than he ever wants out. I would put my odds on Ant being far more of a KG type of guy, and KG did have success. I mean, one conference finals run, but that was KG. I would put my money on Anthony Edwards actually sparking this franchise and them having success, as opposed to him being like 4 years down the road and saying, you know where I have to play? I have to play for the Knicks or the
Knickerbocker,
Lakers.
the New York Knickerbockers, who've been garbage for 30 years. Yeah.
And so, I think it's a fun talker, and I think it's I think that it's an easy off-season national media talker when a guy is going well to identify, hey, what could be the problem here? I mean, I'd do it too. I just don't think it's realistic.
It is fascinating because like 2 weeks ago, before really I feel like this started to really bubble, the Lebitard show spent like 40 minutes. Dan was out, but the entire rest of the crew was in, and they were basically concocting ways that Eric Spoelstra is basically planting the early seeds to get Anthony Edwards to Miami down the road. Like they spent 25 minutes on that, with also the comparison to Dwayne Wade, with also the comparison to, hey, LeBron and Chris Bosh, the seeds that were planted to get them to Miami. Yeah. It's fascinating because it's a team that I feel like pre-Anthony Edwards, yeah, some people knew him because of the Jimmy Butler situation, and they knew Andrew Wiggins and Cat to a degree, but no one ever took them seriously. This feels like, at least to me, that this is the most serious the people are like legitimately taking the Timberwolves core since Kevin Garnett. It might not, they're not looking at them as like the Golden State Warriors as this dynasty, but I feel like for the first time in probably like 20 years, 15, 20 years, every other major market, every other national talking head is at least kind of considering the Timberwolves as a legitimate team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and to me, like, legitimate team, that's where the conversation should be. I'm so sick of like these boomers who are coming out, and I don't know how old the Athletic writer is, probably someone that's younger, but like this whole bigger market argument in 2023 is so dumb. The conversation should be about, if you want to poke holes in like where Anthony Edwards should be, it should be about, and this is a fair question, absolutely, because the Timberwolves have been incompetently run for the better part of, well, forever, for 35 years. Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, they can't make the market bigger, but they can make it a cooler place to be if you're a basketball star. They can make it a winning franchise, right? They can hire the right people. They can sign the right contracts. I just want to show you, I was thinking about this in terms of like a bigger market to shine and how dumb that is in 2023. I want to show you across different sports, different forms of entertainment, how archaic and inaccurate that argument is. Let's start with the NBA, where right now, the last 2 or 3 years, it's fair to say there's probably a handful of faces of the NBA, but right now, Nikola Jokic and Giannis are like the two faces of the National Basketball Association the last 3 years or so. One of them plays in Denver. The other one plays in Milwaukee. Those are both smaller markets in terms of like Nielsen measurement, TVs in homes and population than Minneapolis, St. Paul. Okay, so the two current faces of the NBA are in smaller markets than Minneapolis, St. Paul. LeBron James is probably the most famous athlete in the world the last 10 or 15 years. Maybe it's Messi, maybe it's Ronaldo, but it's like LeBron James is one of the 3 or 4 most famous athletes in the world, not just the country, the world, the last 10, 15, 20 years. And he has spent the majority of his career in Cleveland, Ohio, where it wasn't like he went to Miami and then became a household name. It's like, no, he was a household name in Cleveland, then went back to Cleveland, right? In the NFL right now, the 3 faces of the league play in Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow. All of those are smaller markets than Minneapolis, St. Paul. So today, on the sports media front, Pat McAfee he takes his show over from like his independent situation, brings it over to ESPN. It's going to be distributed across all of ESPN's platforms from noon until 3 every single day, and it's going to be on YouTube. Pat McAfee has the biggest sports media show and platform in the country, and that show is produced out of Indianapolis, Indiana, a smaller market than Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I'll give you one more here just to hammer this point home of how dumb this argument is that you need to go to a bigger market in 2023 when everyone's got a phone and internet. YouTube stars, okay? Mr. Beast. You guys heard of Mr. Beast?
I know Mr. Beast. I know where he is.
180 million YouTube subscribers. He is the biggest YouTube star in the history of YouTube, okay? Mr. Beast resides in Greenville, North Carolina.
Yep.
I think I just made Judd's head explode. I think he might have just left the room entirely. Population 88,000 in Greenville, North Carolina. You have relatives in North Carolina. The population of the biggest YouTube star in the country is the same as Bloomington, Minnesota.
Right.
So I'm like all of these boomers and Gen Xers talking about New York and Los Angeles as the only places you can be famous in 2023. Get out of here with that dumbassery, please. If your argument is, are the Timberwolves the right franchise and vessel to be competently run for Anthony Edwards to maximize exposure in the playoffs, etc., we can have that conversation. But stop with like the New York, LA big market thing in 2023. Okay. End rant.
Very nice. Very nice. But the difference with that list that you just went through as well with star players in small towns or smaller markets is the fact that those star players have been the driving force for success. And so that's the thing is Anthony Edwards appears to be the type of player that you can build a franchise around. Like that's the whole point about Karl Anthony Towns. He was expected to transcend, to turn the franchise around. And for everyone who says, well, he's a great player, okay, but, you know, they haven't had the requisite success yet. That's the thing. Like Joe Burrow in Cincinnati is a perfect example. How long were the Bengals just a laughingstock, an absolute just terrible franchise? Joe Burrow, like to say, well, Joe Burrow should go to the New York Giants. One, he's been incredibly successful.
Right?
Two,
no one talks about that.
But my point is, I will consider trading a star player who doesn't do what I expected.
Yeah.
Like the reason why we talk about Cat potentially being traded is because of that, because the success has not come. But Anthony Edwards appears to be the type of guy who you can say, dude, we are going to invest everything around you. You're going to make this. And that's the other thing. Anthony Edwards, Joe Burrow, Giannis. Those guys make their teams cool to play for. That's how they get good players now. Yeah. So, if they were to trade them, guys wouldn't be like, well, Cincinnati looks like they turned things around, but Burrow's gone now. So, like that, yeah. But I mean, Phil, this goes back 8 years. The NBA especially, they have there's this fixation with big markets. Okay, now you could say that that winters here aren't especially palatable, but the reality is, players are looking for places they can A, win, B, be comfortable, and C, where if you're going to spend the money, like Glenn Taylor would be the problem, not Minneapolis, Minnesota. Glenn Taylor would be the problem. If Glenn Taylor wasn't selling this team, I would, in sports dad fashion, caution that I'm a little bit concerned here. But if this thing gets sold, which it looks like it's going to, and gets run right, I don't think the market is going to be the problem.
Even I'll throw two more at you, and I know hockey's a lot different. The best hockey player on the planet plays in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Edmonton. Now, it's a big city in Canada, but no one looks at Edmonton as this insane, absurd, amazing, over-the-top market, right? Like, it's kind of baffling to me that sometimes we just look at, hey, New York and LA, and I think LeBron, yeah, to a degree, maybe skewed that a little bit with the big three. But in general, if you look at the current state of most all four major teams in the professional sports scene in the United States, they're not in all big markets. It's hilarious to me.
Now the hockey argument might be that, hey, Connor McDavid, is he the most famous hockey player? You guys could tell me. Is he because he
Right
should
now?
he should be the most famous player, but because you could probably argue that one the other way and say he actually needs to get out of Edmonton, go to at least Toronto or something to be the most famous player. But I mean, but the point stands that you can have a wildly successful career and make millions of dollars,
Yes.
and like he's the most famous player in Canada, which is it's the national sport in Canada. Now, okay, to go down the argument path of like Anthony Edwards, is Minnesota the right place to be? Again, it's about the franchise, not about the market size. Damian Lillard in Portland. It hasn't been a team failure there because of Portland's market size, in my opinion. I mean, San Antonio is a small market, and they had a dynasty because they were a well-run franchise. And Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker were all like faces of the league for 10 years, especially Tim Duncan, right? Now, Portland is incompetently run, and that's why Dame Lillard hasn't been on a bigger stage, because they aren't putting guys around him. In baseball, Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout are in the second biggest market. Is Los Angeles number 1 or 2? Maybe
LA
New York
is 2. LA
so,
is 2.
second biggest market in the country, but they are incompetently run. Therefore,
Right.
they're playing in obscurity. They're never playing in October, never playing, in the American League Championship Series or the World Series. And so it's not that Shohei might go from Los Angeles to Seattle. He might downgrade by like 14 market sizes to play for a better run franchise.
Yeah.
You know?
This is all about exactly that. This is all about how are you run. Like the Bucks are now run well. The Bucks were recently sold. That's not a coincidence. So yeah, it is 100% how the team is run, how much you empower that star player. And by the way, you've got to empower the right guy too. Like Ant probably deserves it. Like from what I've seen, Ant deserves that. And so if Ant can recruit some friends here, if this team is willing to spend, it might seem small now, but I think it's going to be important in the coming years. Is this team going to get a new building to play in with better locker rooms and fancy, players like that stuff? But I don't think it has a damn thing to do with, it's not in Los Angeles. So like that's a late, that has become, because I think at one time, 20 years back, it held weight. In my opinion, that's become a lazy, old school argument just to do it based on the market size.
Yeah, and now I feel like we're like beating a dead horse here. But one more thing on this, because it's so stupid, the market size thing. Okay, if you're Anthony Edwards, all right, let's envision a world where you go from small little podunk Minneapolis, right? Even though it's a bigger market size wise than half the NBA cities, including Miami, by the way. Now Miami's a more like star destination city, so I get it.
Right.
But okay, let's say you're going to go from Minneapolis to Los Angeles so that you can be a movie star. Oh wait, he already was a movie star. He starred in Adam Sandler's movie last summer. Or maybe you can go from Minneapolis to Los Angeles or New York, maybe New York, so that you can be the face of USA basketball. Wouldn't that be great? Oh wait, he is already the face of at least the World Cup version of USA basketball. Like,
Right.
It's 2023, man. You can run a 200 million subscriber YouTube channel from Greenville, North Carolina. You can run the biggest sports media platform in the country from Indianapolis, Indiana.
I mean, you can do Flagrant Howls from
Portland,
Minneapolis/St. Paul,
Seattle, and Portland for a while.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Exactly right. But I will say this. In watching Anthony Edwards play in the World Cup, I've watched about 3 games. There is clearly, I mean, this is why I said this is the one place where I don't have a problem with a guy playing in a in-season tournament, because you can see that a switch has been flipped. Like, this is no fluke. This is no fluke. And I urge you, for all of you who are Wolves fans and say, you guys are too hard on Cat, I urge you to watch the difference in watching those two guys play consistently.
Oh,
and this
yeah.
is not to say Cat is not a special player. Cat is a special talent. But I'm talking about that sort of intangible. When I watch Ant play, and Ant has a way that says, give me the ball, that is almost like, okay, dude, I will. Not, give me the ball. I want the ball. It's, give me the ball.
Yeah, it's
special.
And he had the game against Italy where they won by like 40 was basically his first clunker of the World Cup, I feel like. But they were also, he played lockdown defense. He grabbed some rebounds, some assists.
Incredible, Phil.
It was the Mikal Bridges game, and they were up by 40. So
his defense has become nuts.
Yeah. Well, it's hard, I think, for 82 games in the regular season to just bring that intensity all the time when you're also asked to be the primary ball handler and score 25, 30 points every single night. But you see, like, when he wants to flip that switch and turn it on, and you do have to pace yourself a little bit in the regular season, but you know, on a night where, hey, you got to go lock down Steph Curry for a final possession, or you know, Trae Young, or I'm trying to think back some of those games, and Jaden McDaniels is the same way. So, anyways, figured we'd just kind of jump on here and cut a vein open for 20 minutes for you guys here.
Thank you.
Flagrant Howls.
Thank you. It's my first appearance.
You can thank
Kyle,
our buddy.
hi.
Well, it's not
Hi,
your
Kyle.
first appearance on Flagrant Howls.
Well, it's my first appearance on where Kyle is ordinarily the co-host, I should say. I've been on with you when we do the version of Mackey and Judd, but this is my first time where Kyle's been out and I've been on. So
you are now indoctrined as a friend of Flagrant Howls.
A friend of the show, which means, Kyle, where are you? I care about you very deeply.
Love us some Kyle. Love us some Finch too. Love us some Chris Finch and some Finch Home Solutions. No relation. The Finch Home Solutions van is more of a, you know, purple and gold van, but we're all friends here.
You make the call. That's the van that's going to show up. And if you have any electrical problems in your home, the second that van pulls up in front of your house, you know you're going to get good, courteous, fast, outstanding service, because that's how Cody and his team do things. And we're talking about repairs from the smallest of things. We're talking about, you know what, you need an outlet installed. Finch does that. We're talking about your entire house needs to be rewired. You've got some huge project. You're redoing your kitchen and have a bunch of electrical needs there. Finch does that. There's nothing Finch can't do. They're going to be fast. They're going to be efficient. They're going to be courteous. They're going to be fair. All of those things. I have used them and confirmed that. 612-357-2604, FinchHomeSolutions.com. FinchHomeSolutions.com. And best of all, when that van pulls up, you know you're going to get quality.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us here, Flagrant Howls. Give us a 5-star rating, positive review on Apple, and we'll see you guys next week.